Bettor Sports Betting is your home for picks, props, and futures for tonight's action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. Appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Tuesday afternoon, wherever you're watching, on YouTube, Twitter, the BSN app. We love having you guys chime in here, guys and girls. If you got any comments, questions, picks that you want to throw at us, definitely hit us up in the chat here over on YouTube or wherever you're watching, and we'll get to some questions and give our opinions on some of your picks that you got going tonight or for this NFL season, college football season. Because I got John and Pembo with me, and I'm glad we do because he's a Patriots fan. He's a Patriots guy. We got to talk right about right at the start about Zeke Elliott going to New England. What's up, John?
Dan, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Definitely a little bit of a surprise signing, or maybe not so big of a surprise signing after the way some of the reports at our camp have been going surrounding the backfield of New England. After Ramondre Stevenson, game one of the preseason, people saw both Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris really do absolutely nothing on the ground. And that's been a little bit more of the same in terms of reporting from camp, that neither guy was really looking all that impressive. So seeing Ezekiel Elliott sign, got to think, that open Damian Harris role, they'll be able to kind of slot Elliott more into that role, where he'll be a little bit more of the grinder, maybe get some of those short yardage situations, and really just be the spell back, in my opinion, to Ramondre Stevenson here. But it's going to be interesting to see how the red zone work pans out. There's been a lot of stats since put out on Twitter last year from inside like the 5-yard line. Elliott was able to convert at like a much higher rate than Ramondre Stevenson was. We know Elliott's success running the ball into the end zone for Dallas last season. Now, obviously, offensive line plays a big factor into that. The Patriots' offensive line not nearly as good as the offensive line is in Dallas, but if Stevenson was having some trouble in those short yardage or goal to go situations, well, now Ezekiel Elliott comes in and is a tried and true proven power back that could be someone that gets in there and maybe he finds himself 5 to 7 touchdowns this year now all of a sudden in that Patriots backfield. So that's something to watch for sure. I know this is a betting show, but fantasy players were taking Ramondre Stevenson in the second round to drafts, or maybe early third, depending on the swing, and has to have some value impact now on the outlook of Ramondre here.
Yeah. If you want more of the fantasy impact, for sure, you got to go over to fantasyalarm.com right now, because there is an article up right now by Andrew Cooper breaking down the fantasy impact of Zeke going to New England and Dalvin Cook going to the Jets. We'll touch on both of those here. We will get to some baseball picks a little bit later as well, because, of course, we got a full slate of games tonight we want to give out some picks for. But yeah, let's start with this Zeke to New England and Dalvin Cook to the Jets. News from yesterday, late last night too, and dive into the betting impact. But obviously, you mentioned it with the fantasy impact. This hurts Stevenson. I'm wondering where you're thinking about the betting impact here, because we look at current odds over on DraftKings right now. The rushing touchdowns odds. We got Zeke Elliott at 4.5. rushing touchdowns, and Ramondre Stevenson at 5.5 rushing touchdowns. The Zeke over is plus 100. If you want to go under 4.5, it's minus 120. And Ramondre Stevenson over is and under both minus 110. So 5.5 and 4.5 for these guys. It's interesting that these are the lines that are set, because you mentioned Zeke will obviously have a bigger role at the goal line than overall workload in the offense. But these rushing touchdowns lines are only a touchdown apart. Last year, just for some reference here, we had Ramondre Stevenson get 5 touchdowns on the ground. He had over 1,000 rushing yards, but he only had 5 rushing scores. Damian Harris had 3 touchdowns, only played 11 games though. So factor all that in. And obviously Zeke, 3 of the past 4 seasons, he's had 10 plus rushing touchdowns, but obviously a different situation now. What's your read on this? You going over or under either of these guys for their rushing touchdowns to start?
I honestly, at 4.5, I'd probably take the over at the plus 100 for Ezekiel Elliott.
Me too.
The one thing with the way the Patriots handled sort of their backfield here is even during Damian Harris's kind of breakout year in 2021, when Ramondre Stevenson was a rookie, Damian Harris only played like 44% of the offensive snaps. Ramondre Stevenson was like 35, 36. So, Bill Belichick was still kind of rotating Harris and Stevenson in and out of the lineup there. And then last season, kind of more of the same, where Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, in terms of their total snap share, offensive snap share for the season, a little bit of an edge, but not a huge edge on who the leading rusher was in terms of offensive snap share. So if we get into this year and maybe it's a 55-45 or a 60-40 sort of split between the two running backs here, I could easily see them both kind of having good years, maybe not stellar years, but touchdown wise, if this offense moves the way we think it's going to under Bill O'Brien, there should be more opportunities for them to score. It's just that I think Zeke's going to be the guy when they're in that inside the 5 to get those touches.
Yeah, and to your point, last year we had, or 2 years ago, we had Ramondre Stevenson get 5 touchdowns on the ground, only 606 rushing yards for him there, but that was in that kind of secondary role to Damian Harris when Harris had a big season. And then last year, obviously, when Harris went down, Stevenson really emerged. But both this backfield is going to be using both these guys, especially with just kind of the uncertainty and lack of confidence around Mac Jones running the offense. It seems right now, I feel like they're just going to be leaning on the ground either way, whether it's Stevenson or Zeke there, and especially in the red zone. I mean, I know Stevenson is really good, but like having the veteran presence of Zeke there, whether he's catching it or running it in, I think is something we can't overlook. So yeah, I like the plus odds on that over 4.5. The Stevenson one I'd probably stay away from in terms of rushing touchdowns. But I'll say this: I love his rushing yards prop because it looks like the sports books have moved it down a bunch. It was a lot higher than this about a week ago for sure. And then the new rushing yards line for Stevenson is at 850.5 rushing yards, minus 110 either way. And then Zeke's rushing yards is at 425.5. But I like the over for Stevenson still, 850.5 rushing yards. I like him to go over that. This is a guy that ran for 1,000 last year. I think he's still going to be, the main rusher in between, before you get to the red zone, basically. Zeke, we were just breaking down, as you mentioned, like could be used more in the red zone for those looks. But in terms of like rushing yards, I still think he's going to get the lion's share of the work.
Yeah, I would say a lot of the early down work is going to go Ramondre Stevenson. He's also a capable pass catcher as well. Elliott is a far superior pass blocker. So I think third downs, you'll probably see Ezekiel Elliott on the field as well. So for me, I think you look at Elliott for short yardage, goal to go, and third downs. I think you'll see a lot of Ezekiel Elliott. Longer third downs maybe, or early down work should go to Ramondre Stevenson here. So I could see a spot where both guys go over 400 yards for Ezekiel Elliott, or 450 yards over a 17-game span. Quick math, what is that, like 25 yards a game? Like nothing even that, that wild to think. So, I could see them both going over their totals. And again, I would rather the touchdowns for Elliott than probably the touchdowns for Ramondre. But, if the offense moves, Supposedly, last couple of days in camp, Mac Jones has been unbelievable out of the report. So, we'll see if that can translate to game feeling. But, some good things have been said out of camp lately now that Bill O'Brien's continued to set into his offense here. So,
yeah, and to your point about the rushing yards for Ezekiel Elliott, Damian Harris last year in those 11 games he played, 462 rushing yards for him. And he was being used more of as like a lead guy before he got hurt. But still, I think that is something that can't go overlooked, because it's like both guys are going to be used a lot. And you mentioned like to get the over on Zeke is not a lot.
26.5 rushing yards per game for Ezekiel Elliott. And he's going to have a game where he has like 50 to 60, like he's going to make it up a couple of those games up in a single performance. So, I would bet the over Elliott props right now. One of the biggest reasons I was in on Ramondre was just the depth on that team. There was nothing behind them that had me worried. Obviously, adding Elliott in there throws a little wedge into that, but now it just makes you feel like, all right, we should be in on Elliott because there's nothing behind him to have me worried. Ty Montgomery is hurt again. Spear Strong and Kevin Harris are likely cut or practice squad candidates. So, it's Elliott and Ramondre all the way here.
Yeah, I definitely love the discount that now that we're getting on Ramondre Stevenson's rushing yards. I mean, obviously barring injuries, which is you always got to consider, factor in, but I think that 850 line is just a little too low for him now. So yeah, that's the Patriots side of things. We'll touch on AFC East odds in just a second here, but we got to talk about the other running back that went to this division as well, Dalvin Cook, going to the New York Jets now. And this one is, I think everyone would agree, from a fantasy or betting impact, just a bigger name that should have a bigger role in the Jets backfield because he's been in his prime the last few years. So I think he's coming in, and the sports books have reflected it. So Dalvin Cook rushing yards prop right now on DraftKings, 650.5. His rushing touchdowns line is at 5.5, but that over plus 105 for the rushing yards looks pretty attractive. I mean, what's your read on this? Because obviously they do have Breece Hall still there. They drafted Israel Abanikanda. So there are a bunch of names in that backfield, but I feel like Dalvin Cook's not signing here to not be a lead back, right?
Yeah, not only that, they gave him a good amount of money. So for the year, and to me, this is the I likened this to Leonard Fournette signing with Tampa Bay when Tom Brady first went there, right? This is the Jets doing the all-in. We have Aaron Rodgers. We don't know how long we have Aaron Rodgers for. Let's do what we can to surround him with the best possible talent, that we can, and hope it's enough. And obviously it was enough for Tampa. They bring in Aaron Rodgers. They already have Garrett Wilson. They bring on Alan Lazard for him, the guy that he wanted, and now they're getting him a stud running back and Dalvin Cook that can play all three downs. Breece Hall coming off of the ACL injury, started on the PUP list, probably going to be slow to work. He may not even be ready for week one. And if that's the case, they're not just going to throw him into the fire. We saw what happened with J.K. Dobbins last year and how long it kind of took him to really get ramped up. And they have no reason to ramp up Breece Hall now, the fact that Dalvin Cook is there. So I'm in on Dalvin Cook. Like you said, I don't know necessarily if it's that he wouldn't have signed here without sort of assurances. I don't think his market was all that great, and I don't think that any team was probably willing to commit to him to be like the feature back. If he went to Miami, there's 3 other running backs still there that he would have had to compete with. But he went to the Jets, and they're like, listen, Breece Hall's not ready to go. You're going to be our guy. Aaron Rodgers wants you here. Like, let's go win. Paid him the $10 million. Now he's there. I think Cook is the lead back to roster in New York this year, which is great for me because he's my highest rostered running back and underdog. So let's keep that going.
You took a chance on him, and it's
I've been drafting him nonstop because even once he got released, his price tag was dropping. So I was just buying back in.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on just like the fact that, you mentioned like the situation comparable to Tampa Bay when Brady went there, they want to get, multiple backs in that system. Looking back at just like the last couple of years with the Packers, obviously, I mean, different offenses, but it's still, an aging quarterback in Rodgers, right? Where the Packers leaned on both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And looking at last year, we had Aaron Jones finished with 1,100 rushing yards. A.J. Dillon had 700 plus rushing yards. 2 years ago, both of them had about 800 rushing yards each. So I think this is a similar situation with the Patriots where they're going to use both backs. Once Breece Hall is healthy, I don't think it's going to take away too much from Dalvin Cook being involved. And obviously right off the bat, I expect Cook to kind of have the leg up to get the most carries right away. Mm-hmm. But I love the over for Dalvin Cook's rushing yards here. I mean, this is a guy that's coming off 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And if you want to look at the over on the rushing touchdowns too, I wouldn't mind that because he's also had 6+ rushing scores each season as well from the past 4 years. So the rushing touchdowns may be a little bit less because in the red zone, you kind of expect, Rodgers to take things into his own hands more often and try to make plays with his arm. But I do love the rushing yards over for Dalvin Cook. I just think that line is a little too low just compared to what running backs have done with Rodgers these past 2 years and using both, and Cook is probably, if you want to compare the Packers and the Jets backfields now, Cook is probably in that Aaron Jones mold, as a smaller back. But and Breece Hall is a little bit the bigger back, so he's not as big as AJ Dillon, but I still think like Cook is going to be plenty involved, and more as a rusher than a receiver, I think. So yeah, I love the over on his 650 and a half rushing yards right now. If you want to go grab that,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, interesting. Both of them going to the AFC East here. And with that, let's just kind of look at the AFC odds now as a broad picture, because the Bills are still the favorites, obviously, plus 120 to win the AFC East, and the Jets are second at plus 270. You can see all these odds here. Shout out to our producer Tyler Soto for setting all this up. The Dolphins at plus 300, and the Patriots still in last there at plus 800 to win the AFC East. Does either of these signings, does this Cook signing push you to the Jets being, pushing the Bills here as much, or is it still kind of the Bills and everyone else for you?
I mean, I think everybody in this division is live but the Patriots, to be honest with you. So that's kind of how I felt from the very beginning, because this is a very tough schedule that these AFC East teams have to face. Not just the fact that they have to play each other twice, but then they're facing the NFC East, they're facing the AFC West. So some very tough matchups for a lot of these teams here. So, the Bills have the best odds, but you're probably getting the best value going with Miami or the Jets here. Just kind of the way they're currently listed, because there's really no, Buffalo to me didn't do anything to improve their team. They just kind of stayed the same. I thought like they really should have tried to invest in another wide receiver. Instead, they drafted Dalton Kincaid and are hoping a rookie tight end can go play big slot for them and be that guy. They signed a couple of running backs and Latavius Murray and Damian Harris, but okay, those aren't needle movers for me. So I think that you're looking at Buffalo kind of hoping that Josh Allen is just enough now to continue to have them lead that division, which he certainly can be. Him and Stephon Diggs are incredible together. But, if Tua doesn't go down last year, who knows where Miami ends up finishing up in this conference, in this division. And now you're adding Aaron Rodgers, who I don't think people are forgetting, but in case they have, they need to be reminded. The man won back-to-back MVPs just 2 years ago. So it's not as if he's washed. He played one down year in Green Bay, and now he's back in the saddle a little bit rejuvenated in a better situation in terms of his own mindset. So, I'd rather take shots there than go with Buffalo if I was picking a division winner. Sadly, I just don't think my Patriots have the horses to compete in this division right now, unless Mac Jones really takes a step forward. Again, a lot of reports out of camp are just that Juju and Parker and all those guys just look like crap. So is that because the Patriots are supposed to have a top 10 defense? Maybe, but still not a good sign there if those receivers aren't doing anything. So.
I mean, the Patriots going to be trying to, now that they're adding Zeke, it's really they're making a focus here to try to ground and pound and keep these games low scoring, lean on their defense to maybe pull out some wins. But I don't think it's enough to move the needle to take a chance on them in the division. Maybe you look at their win total, which I'm looking right now.
It was 6.5. Is it changed at all?
6.5 juiced to the over at minus 140 right now.
I
could see them being like a 500 team.
I went through it the other day on one of the shows that I was on, and I think I had them for 7 wins. So on the button, and that was with them splitting a Jets series, which the home and home, lose in New York, win at home. But they have a very tough schedule to start the year. They got a couple of softies in the middle, but the offense really needs to step forward to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, they added. I like that they added a few pieces to the receiving core. Just kind of giving some Mac Jones some more options there. But I just think it's tough for them. Looking at some other win totals, just scrolling through, the Bills are at 10.5 now, juiced plus or minus 150 to the over there. Mm-hmm. The Jets are at 9.5. So. And the Dolphins, you mentioned it with Tua. If we get a full season healthy Tua, then the Dolphins are definitely live to win this division.
Yeah, before that first head injury for Tua, and I know it's very difficult to do the whole per game average over 17 games and all these things, but Tua's on pace for 4,500 yards and 50 passing touchdowns. So I mean, obviously you don't know if he would have been able to keep that pace, but he was at that pace before the first head injury. So, I mean, that guy would have maybe won an MVP if Miami won the division the way he plays playing until that injury happens. If they come back and he's playing at that level again with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle now another year into the league, and the backfield's pretty solid with Wilson, Mostert, and H.A. in there, like that team could be scary. They lost Jalen Ramsey, which is kind of tough. He's going to miss what they said the first 6 weeks of the year or something like that. Because they were counting on him to maybe be a lockdown on Diggs or something. But still, it's a really good team. I think McDaniel's a legitimate coach. So, people I think forget a little bit about Tua and that Miami team, but they were dangerous last year until the QB problems kind of got there.
Yeah, their offense could outscore anybody for sure. So, maybe they're going to be looking right now just at some of their overs this season now with maybe Ramsey hurt and the defense not being one of their strengths. Going to be some higher scoring games. But, just looking through. So the Dolphins are at 9.5 too. So we got the Dolphins, Jets both at 9.5, the Bills at 10.5 in terms of win totals. And those odds kind of have the Bills as like, the betting favorite, but it should be probably more even. So, I think we're both on taking more chances on the Jets and Dolphins to win that division if you're looking ahead to things right now. So that's the Dalvin Cook and the Zeke Elliott impact for the AFC East on the Patriots and Jets. Again, if you haven't already, go check out Andrew Cooper's article over on Fantasy Alarm to get some more of the fantasy impact on things for how Stevenson's affected in terms of fantasy, or Breece Hall for the Jets with Dalvin Cook there. So definitely check out Coop's article. And if you haven't already, then go check out the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide and the Fantasy Football Cheat Sheet that we have for you guys. You can get them both for free. If you have the All-Pro subscription, you can get a free 7-day trial to the All-Pro subscription right now. If you go to fantasyalarm.com/draft, you can get, the rankings and just in general, the overall outlook for the Jets and Patriots is definitely impacted now for fantasy. So you want to get these updates that's going to be in the draft guide and cheat sheet over these next couple weeks before, with the regular season starting. So go get the draft guide and the cheat sheet right now. Get that free 7-day trial to the All-Pro subscription as well. And if you have that All-Pro subscription, you would have seen Josh Wagner's MLB Best Bets article that was up earlier today. And that's kind of where we're going to flip gears here and talk some baseball, because we'll see if any of our best bets line up with Josh's today. So what's your top pick tonight?
Yeah, my top pick, we don't usually go here because it's bumped up, but it's Corey Seager over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Usually this number is 1.5, but he is plus 110 over 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. He's going up against Lucas Giolito. When the Angels made this trade for Giolito and people were sort of applauding them for it, I was very much didn't understand that. I didn't think Lucas Giolito was that good of a pitcher. You looked at his FanGraph numbers, and he had a FIP and XFIP well over 4, even though his ERA was sitting under 4. And it just felt like, he was maybe getting a little bit lucky here. Gets traded, has been getting absolutely mashed pretty much ever since. His last 5 starts, left-handed hitters have a 452 weighted on base percentage with a 634 slugging percentage against Giolito. And then on the year, you have Corey Seager hitting 354 with a 682 slug and a ridiculous 376 isolated power number. So one swing of the bat, it's all it takes to cash the 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs for Seager. I think he can do it tonight off Giolito. He's just really not a good pitcher and really struggling right now.
Yeah, he's had a problem with the home runs as well. And that's where I looked for my home run call when we get to our daily dingers a little bit later. I considered Seager as well, but I went a different direction because I could see a couple guys taking Giolito deep tonight. I can get on board with that Seager one. And when you feel that good about like a hitter prop like this one, then the 2.5 doesn't seem as bad when you're talking hits, runs, RBIs. So yeah, I can support that one. My best bet is the Rays and Giants under 8.5 here on DraftKings. It's minus 110. Interesting situation. So we got Jacob Junis, who's going to start, but only probably go a couple innings. He's been very effective lately. 2.03 ERA over his last 7 appearances, which includes a couple outings of longer starts, quote unquote. But once he leaves, Sean Manaea, it looks like, is going to be the likely bulk reliever after Junis, obviously a lefty in Manaea.
Yeah.
And the Rays are a lot worse against lefties than righties, this season. But lately, for sure, 278 WOBA, 212 batting average over the past 2 weeks against left-handed pitching. I think Junis does just enough to limit it, but Manaea comes in and really holds it down. Manaea, 262 FIP as a reliever this year. He's been used as a starter and reliever with the Giants, but been really strong as a relief pitcher for them, going these bulk outings. And since the start of July, he's got a 221 FIP. So he can be very effective, especially when he's in the bulk role. And I think Junis does enough. On the other side, though, I also think that the Giants' offense, I didn't realize it until diving more into it. They've been the worst offense against right-handed pitching over the past 2 weeks and the past week. But over the past 2 weeks, 244 WOBA in the split, 183 batting average against righties. And, it's Zach Littell on the mound for the Rays, who has actually been solid lately as a traditional starter for the Rays. 296 ERA over his 6 starts this season. And he's been also going, 5-6 innings in recent outings and still being decent. So I think Littell on the one side and the Rays bullpen will hold things down enough. But yeah, give me the full game under for this one.
Yeah, I like it. Again, you talk about the Rays struggles against left-handed pitching. Well, one of their best hitters against left-handed pitching is on the restricted list now. So, out of the lineup is Wander Franco, so you don't have to really worry about him. And, the benefit of having Sean Manaea as sort of the opener is they can almost pick and choose when they kind of put him in. So they don't have to put him in there against Randy Rosarena and Yandy Diaz. They can put him in towards the bottom half of that lineup, let him get 2 innings in against these guys, maybe get into groove, maybe warmed up a little bit better and kind of pick and choose his spots. The one little frustrating thing with Sean Manaea is they've also kind of been inconsistent with how they've used him out of the bullpen. He has a couple of games where he's a long reliever, and then there are a couple of games where he goes an inning and 2/3 as a short reliever. So,
or he's closing a game randomly.
Closing a game randomly, and they use Jacob Junis, they've used Ty Beck, and they used Sean Manaea. The other day they did that with Alex Wood, where they started Beck, and then they brought in Junis for an inning, and then they brought in Alex Wood for 3. So there's like inconsistencies right now, and super frustrating with the way the Giants are using their rotation. But I would agree with you on a whole. I mean, the Rays offense in San Francisco, even much of a better spot to go and take the unders on that one. So I do like that.
By the way, you mentioned the Franco situation right now, obviously, for the Rays. And if you haven't realized, Wander Franco's out right now on the restricted list. You can Google what the situation is there. But the whole thing, this wasn't true last night. The Rays offense put up a bunch of runs last night. But the whole thing, like kind of a game theory angle of it, is that I just feel like the team in general is going to feel a little bit weird about this. Maybe it affects some of the hitters, just knowing that what is happening with Franco. I don't know, but it didn't happen last night, but hopefully it comes true tonight where the offense just has a little lull. So, all right. What other picks you got rolling tonight?
Yeah, so I got a couple here. Going on another just really bad pitcher, and I know it kind of correlates with one of your plays as well. Going Luis Severino over the 3.5 earned runs here against Atlanta. It's only minus 110 again. This is a number that most times is set at 2.5, except for the really bad pitchers. And that's just what Severino is. Severino has been dreadful this season.
So bad.
And then against lefties even, and we know Matt Olson's here, right? A guy that can just do it one swing in the bat. Lefties have a 475 weighted on base percentage this year, but a 700 slugging percentage. So like just horrible numbers for Luis Severino. It would be the miracle of all miracles if he went out there and refound form, because everybody is betting pretty much every Braves prop possible. So give me the Sevy over 3.5 earned today.
Well, yeah, right in line with that. I'm going with every Braves prop possible, because give me their team total for the full game over. Give me their first 5 innings team total over 3.5. The full game team total is at 5.5. I still like it. I mean, listen, if Severino goes out there and has a good outing against this like elite Braves offense against right-handed pitching, then I obviously deserve to lose all these bets. But there's just no way it's happening, right? I mean, So just like if you didn't realize how bad Severino has been lately, I mean, you can look at his ERA right now in like the 8s. It's bad, obviously, but he's got an 11.71 ERA since the start of July.
Yeah.
Over his last 3 starts alone, he's allowed 18 runs total. So like that's in line with your earned runs prop. The Braves just been crushing righties all season, but lately 396 WOBA, 331 batting average in the split, 929 team OPS over the past week. There's no way Severino. Also, he's been bad on the road this year. Some terrible road numbers. So I don't see how the Braves offense gets held down here. So give me all their team totals. And then, yeah, you mentioned it, Olsen. I'm going with Olsen tonight. Just like kind of rinse and repeat with Matt Olsen at this point. His over total bases seems to cash almost nightly. And I'm just going that direction because he's got really good numbers against right-handed pitching. Lately he's just seems every other game he's hitting a home run and didn't homer last night. So let's see if he goes deep tonight. But yeah, just Severino against lefties has been terrible. So yeah, give me the Olsen props.
And adding to that tonight, Atlanta, we have winds blowing out 10 to 15 miles an hour. So I mean, again, just
it's gotta happen.
It's gotta happen. It absolutely has to happen. Severino's not gonna find regained form all of a sudden. Last time out, they didn't even start him. They brought him out of the bullpen to see if maybe that could sort of rejuvenate him, and he immediately got smashed. Waited absolutely no time. The Astros just started banging him around. So yeah, I don't see this one being a night where he figures it out.
No, he has had some okay outings actually, and it looked like maybe a month ago, but lately it's been terrible. The Braves at home here, I just don't see how they're not getting 5 runs in the first couple innings. So
yeah.
All right, what else you got rolling tonight?
Yeah, listen, it's juiced up a little bit, but I'm just going to attack it because I like Corey Seager. So we're going Giolito over to the 2.5 earned tonight as well. It's minus 159, so maybe you find a parlay or something, or you get some boosted odds. I think DraftKings got that promo tonight. Throw a boosted odds bet on Lucas Giolito more than the 2.5 earned runs.
Yeah, I like that one too, especially if you like all these Rangers props. My other pick, going with the Kansas City Royals team total over 3.5. Kind of an under the radar one, I think, because the Royals offense, if you haven't realized, they're lighting up right-handed pitching as well lately. Actually, over the past week, they are the top offense in multiple categories against righties. 400 WOBA, 240 ISO, 331 batting average in this split over the past week versus righties. And they got Emerson Hancock on the mound against going against the Seattle starter here, who he had a decent debut last week, made his MLB debut, but this is a guy that he went straight from Double-A to the majors, had a 4.32 ERA at Double-A, and had a bunch of blow up spots that he's capable of doing that. And in his debut, he faced the Padres offense that's been slumping lately, especially against right-handed pitching themselves. So I think the Royals coming in here, playing really well and, winning a bunch of games lately. But in terms of their offense, they've scored 4+ runs, going over this 3.5 team total in 10 of their last 13 games and averaging 5.5 runs per game this month. So, I love the Royals team total here, considered betting them on the money line, but just in general, I like, it's Jordan Lyles on the mound for Kansas City. So I was staying away from that, but I think the offense at least gets it done.
Yeah, listen, I like it. I got a stolen base prop here. Bobby Witt over half a stolen base plus 200. Over the last 2 weeks, only Ha-Seong Kim has more stolen bases than Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt's got 5. Kim has 6. So you're talking about a guy here that is active. He's running because he's getting on base a ton right now, hitting over 400 during this stretch as well. So you get him on base, and he's running. Got a righty on the mound. So give me Bobby Witt here over the half a stolen base tonight.
I know we couldn't go a full show without you giving out a stolen base prop, by the way.
It's too nice. 2-1, man. You got to take a run at it.
I love it. Yeah, Bobby Witt has been fun to watch lately. Yeah, he's a big part of the Royals offense, just doing work lately. So yeah, I love that. All right, another pick of mine. I'm going with the Phillies first 5 money line. Zach Wheeler's been pitching a lot better, more consistent lately. He's got a 2.76 ERA over his last 5 starts since the All-Star break. Also has some good numbers on the road, a 248 FIP on the road this year. And he's got a Blue Jays offense that's struggling against right-handed pitching last couple of weeks. 290 WOBA, 224 batting average against this split. And the Phillies, they have been really good against lefties lately. I've bet on them a few times when they're playing, Mackenzie Gore as a lefty, Patrick Corbin when they just faced him in the Nats. And they've been lighting these lefty starters up. And 393 WOBA, 297 ISO against left-handed pitching over the past week. And you say Kikuchi, he comes in really well. He's been pitching really well. Yeah, admittedly, he has been good. But I still look at his FIP at 452, still a full run higher than his ERA. So this might be a spot where he regresses a little bit. Give me the first 5 at least for the Phillies.
Yeah, I like that. Again, on a slate like tonight, again, we're going to do the DFS show after this one at 5 o'clock. James Rodney and myself, we're really struggling to figure out where to go with pitching because there's some pretty bad pitching on this slate. And Kikuchi was kind of like pitching the best of the bunch. But, him and Michael Wacha, I think, are kind of interesting tonight. Wacha's coming off of the IL, going up against Baltimore, which until last night had kind of been struggling a little bit. So be interesting to see where he comes in. My last play was Rangers team total over 4.5 runs. It's -120. Again, just hammering more Lucas Giolito ideas here. So give them the 4.5 at -120. Seager, Simeon, Adolis, Nathaniel Lowe, Jonah Heim, like the whole crew, Ezekiel Duran. They should all just get to Giolito here tonight.
Yeah. Right in line with just fading Giolito. I love it. We got a comment in the chat, by the way. Appreciate Michael Rojas chiming in here. Detroit versus Minnesota over 9 runs. Do you like that one? We got Alex Fado on the mound for Detroit, Bailey Ober on the mound for Minnesota. I definitely like the Minnesota side of things. Bailey Ober's been one of those guys that kind of been up and down.
Detroit has hammered him the last 2 times he's faced him. He gave him 11 hits against Detroit in his last start.
So you might be leaning over here.
I think I might be leaning over, or maybe Detroit team total over. I just watched Detroit put a bunch of runs on my Red Sox. Kelly Carpenter, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, they're all kind of heating up a little bit here. So I may lean Detroit team over.
Okay.
What do we got on the Detroit team over here? 3.5 probably.
I'm pulling it up now.
3.5 at -110 for Detroit. I kind of like that. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Kind of like over to 3.5 on Detroit.
They've been a team like the Royals, same division, that the offense has been kind of underrated because full season they're terrible. They haven't been good, but lately it's just some of these offenses have been picking it up, and the Royals have been one you can't overlook. And the Tigers too. By the way, looking at them, they just faced Minnesota and took 3 out of 4 from them. Put up 6 runs in one game, put up 9 in another. Was one of those the Ober start? I'm guessing.
I would have to. I think I had to have been because he gave up like 11 hits against them. Last 2 weeks against right-handed pitching, Detroit is 9th in WOBA. Their 174 ISO has them right in the middle of the pack at 15th. Batting average, they are 6th in batting average against right-handed pitching. So, they're a team that's doing some damage right now against righties. Because again, Carpenter, Riley Green, Torkelson, those guys are all starting to heat up right now. So, Detroit 3.5 runs at -110. I'll take the over on that tonight.
Like that. Well, I'm on the full game over with Michael then because I like your side of things, but I also think I looked at multiple Twins hitters for home run calls against Alex Fado because he's been the guy that's could cough him up. So and the Twins are -192 favorites on the money line there. So if you think the Tigers offense is getting it done, I think the Twins will have success too. So the over looks pretty good there. You look at the first 5 over, if anything, because we think both these pitchers could struggle a little bit. All right, my last pick before we get to some home run calls for tonight, going with Jack Flaherty over 5.5 strikeouts, -136 on FanDuel. He's been, I've been betting on him a couple times here, and he's come through because he's had 8 strikeouts in both of his starts with Baltimore now since the trade deadline. And going back, looking since the All-Star break, his strikeout rate has really took an uptick, 26% strikeout rate compared to, it was like a 21% beforehand. He's really settled down and been very effective for Baltimore now. And his strikeouts, he's had 6+, so over this line in 4 or 5 starts since the All-Star break as well. And the Padres, another offense that's coming in cold right now. I mentioned it earlier. Emerson Hancock having a good outing against them recently, but against right-handed pitching over the past week, they have a 285 WOBA, 231 batting average, and their strikeout rate's up at 26%.
We just saw Grayson Rodriguez last night.
I was going to say, so Grayson Rodriguez struck out 6 last night, had a good outing. And if you look past the recent outings, recent games for San Diego against right-handed starters, 4 of their last 6 have gone over this line. So, give me Flaherty to keep it going. Looked at Baltimore on the the money line, that kind of thing. But you mentioned Waka on the other side for San Diego's a little, he could come out and have a really good start again.
Yeah, you just don't know, right? Coming off the IL, but he was really, really good this year before the injury.
Yeah, but he's been out for what is it? It's been a few weeks now, right?
It feels even longer, honestly, because doing the DFS show every day feels like I haven't seen Michael Waka's name on a slate in some time here. I'll pull it up right now. I'll tell you his last start. Last start was July 1st, so it's been a bit.
Oh wow, more than a month.
Over a month, yeah.
Okay, so we got Waka against Flaherty. I mean, it could be. I looked at this full game, first 5 under yesterday on the show with Hoard Bender. It was Yu Darvish versus Grayson Rodriguez, and that thankfully cashed by just
a little
barely.
bit. Yeah, Darvish made it hairy there.
Yeah, he made it hairy. I wouldn't think Grayson Rodriguez would have the better outing of the two there, but he did.
Yeah. Everything's coming up Baltimore. All their young guys are just starting to snap in, right? So.
That's crazy. Yeah, now Flaherty's, I think, feeling the vibes. Just kind of switching gears from St. Louis to Baltimore.
Yeah, being in a loser team to a winning team.
Right? All right, so those are our betting picks for tonight. And again, if you didn't already, go check out Josh Wagner's Best Bets article. We got prize picks and underdog plays from myself and John over on fantasyalarm.com that you can check out as well for tonight. But let's now give out our home run calls for tonight, our daily dingers.
And that baby is gone.
Now that's a dinger.
All right, we both got a couple picks here that I think have been in line with some of our previous picks so far. Who do you got going deep tonight?
Yeah, listen, I went with Ron Acuna here, plus 375 on the money line, 370 rather, over on DraftKings Sportsbook. I toyed obviously with Matt Olson, and I looked at Corey Seager, but they were plus 250, I think, or something like that. I just like the larger odds on Acuna here. The guy is a runaway favorite for the MVP award right now, and as bad as Severino's been, I could see Acuna, leading this game off for Atlanta with a home run tonight, right off the bat to set the tone. So, give me Acuna at the plus 370 homer here.
I would love that for my team totals early for the Braves.
Just get it going, yeah.
By the way, every day, if you watch the show, Hoard Bender has been just, every day he pounds the table for Matt Olson. I think it's been his home run call 5 days in a row or whatever. And listen, he has made the point, and I can't argue against it, that if you bet on Matt Olson's home run prop every day, then you're gonna have a profitable basic month.
It was the Story Ruiz stolen base prop earlier this year. If you didn't bet it, you'll be up, right? So.
But I do like still the call for Acuna. I could see multiple Braves going deep against Severino here.
Acuna plus 800 to be the first home run of the game. Yeah, so you can go there if you wanted to do that one. Matt Olson plus 600 to be the first home run of the game. So
that's if Acuna doesn't go deep first in the first inning. All right, my home run call is Adolis Garcia. You've broken down fading Giolito tonight, and liking the Rangers team total, and I like Garcia at plus 295 on DraftKings. Giolito, so he's got a 6.15 ERA on the road, 17 home runs allowed over 13 road starts this season, and he's got better home numbers in general. I mean, he's got better home numbers, but Garcia too, better at home. 21 of his 30 home runs this year have come at home, where he's also slugging 645 and hitting 300 at home. And all for right-handed pitching for Garcia, even though he is a righty, 23 of his 30 home runs have come against right-handed pitching. He's got 5 homers in the past month. So another guy that's been kind of rolling lately. He homered last night for the Rangers. So I think he makes it back-to-back nights. Give me a plus 295 for Adolis.
Yeah, I like that. Again, we're all in on fading Giolito here today. And then our guy Mark chimes in. I'm late, but Severino over 3.5 earned seems tasty. I had that play.
Yep.
That was in one of my bets tonight,
Yep.
minus 110, over 3.5 earned run. So, we're in on going all in against Giolito and against Luis Severino here tonight. Pretty much any which way you can crisscross it. So, join the party here tonight.
Yeah, and on that note, with Mark chiming about Severino, and yeah, you have the earned runs prop for Severino going over, and I have the Braves team total in the first 5 innings, which is basically essentially Severino's earned runs there. Their team total is at 3.5, so same thing. I'm going over on that, and their full game team total going over 5.5. So yeah, we're fading Severino for sure here. And of course, this last time we all did this, I think it was me and Howard both did this with Domingo Germán, and that night he went out and pitched a perfect game. So
perfect game, yeah. I felt that way when Austin Gomber shut down the Dodgers last week, and I was like, what are we doing? Like, the Dodgers are supposed to hammer left-handed pitching, and Gomber's out here throwing a gem. So that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But let's hope not tonight.
Listen, Severino obviously has the talent to do something like that. He just has not shown it lately. The guy is
you can't have any confidence, right? Think about how Luis Severino's been pitching lately, and he looks on the calendar. He's like, "Oh, I have to face the Atlanta Braves today." Like, that itself is a mind blend, right? Like, you're gonna psych yourself out on the mound. So
yeah, honestly, when I looked at the schedule tonight and the board, just seeing, all right, Severino going against the Braves. Are you kidding me?
Right.
So of course that means he's gonna toss 7 shutout innings, but hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
All right, so those are our home run calls and all of our betting picks tonight. We got to get out of here, but appreciate everyone tuning in. If you are into MLB DFS, definitely stay tuned for John and Pemba and Justin Fensterman on the show.
Grande back today.
Grande's back today, so we got them at 5 p.m. Eastern here on Bettor Sports Network, so stay tuned for that. And we'll be back tomorrow here on Bettor Sports Betting at 4 p.m. Eastern, so stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, stay tuned here on Bettor Sports Network all night long, and check the MLB DFS show up next with John and James. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and good luck.
See you guys.